Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're getting this information. My name is Rafael Vasquez Guzman, and this is your show, Líderes del Futuro, on KBBF 89.1 FM and on the web at kbbf.org. Today, we have the privilege and opportunity to reconnect with one of my students from Santa Rosa Junior College. And I think we met even before that, Brandon Luna Rodriguez. Brandon, welcome to the show. Remind me, how were you when we first met?
Damn, when we first met, I think that was freshman, like sometime between end or middle of freshman year. I was like barely like 18, 19. Yeah,
Yeah,
around that time.
I think so. Yeah. And one of the things that caught my attention about you was the fact that you were involved into the stock market, and that caught your attention. The fact that you were really involved in it, and you would just sit there and you could break it down and all of this stuff was very interesting to me. Um, but let's start a little bit before that. Where were you born?
I was born in Santa Rosa, California.
And then you went to high school and then college in the same area?
So I went to elementary school in the same area, but due to like parent issues and stuff, I then migrated to Windsor, California, and then continued my education like middle school and high school there. And then after there, after living in Windsor for quite some time and graduating high school, I then went to the Santa Rosa Junior College to pursue my higher education. And then now, recently, after transferring, I graduated from Sonoma State University.
And during all that time, you were still doing some of that day trading, as we like to call it. What caught your attention about that?
So day trading caught my attention in the sense that you can make money online by just reading the markets. And at the time, since it wasn't like a lot of money, like income wise, outside of day trading was coming in, it was like helping, make like an extra 200, $300 every so often, like a few times a week. But at the same time, it's like it's not about the money that you make. You also have to be consistent because you can lose that money if you have a bad trade.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's like it was a pretty fun thing to learn. Definitely would continue revisiting back with a higher amount of capital. But yeah, it was something that I would view as like understanding like how the markets work and a way to like get side money on top of like also studying at the same time.
There's a lot of kids out there in the community who unfortunately get the wrong information from online sources, whether it is YouTube channels, whether it is so many places, and they assume they have been told that you start with $100 today, and by tomorrow you could just be rich and have all this money. Originally, how did you get started? What or whom taught you about day trading?
Well, how I got started was I was seeing a lot of ads back in the day that were like talking about like, oh, want to join our like foreign exchange trading group and stuff. And then I realized that there were some people there that were actually like learning how to trade, but other people were just there to recruit and earn referral bonuses by getting them into the program and stuff. And I
Mhm.
was like, I don't really need this group. I could just learn off like YouTube and actual like mentors and stuff. And then after pivoting away from that group, I just started to learn like basic strategies that would work, but would require like patience and like monitoring every so often of how your trade's going. And what I think where people go wrong in this field, especially if they're like get attracted by, oh, you could flip this amount of money, is like, first of all, you got to understand that any money that's given to the market is money that you're willing to lose because some people like want to flip the money, but they cannot afford to lose that money. So they don't have the patience and they're constantly like stressed out or anxious when like trying to trade the market. And that's not something you want to do. Like, for example, if you have like 50 grand, that's like 50 grand, it's just gone. It's just there, it's gone. You already burnt it. And you gotta be okay with losing it. Yeah.
There was a young man years ago who made the news, unfortunately, because he committed suicide because he started investing in day trading. every day, every day, every day. And when he committed suicide, again, he learned from online sources that obviously were not teaching him everything. And after he killed himself, sadly, it was found out that he thought he owed hundreds of thousands of dollars to all these people. But in reality, he only owed, I think it was 17,000 or something of the kind. But again, a lot of people start taking risks without understanding the consequences and without really knowing what they're doing. I remember that one time we were at the radio station and we were interviewing you, and you were trading in the middle of our interview, which I found very, very interesting. But again, it was about that dedication, reading the right material. And then you had, I believe, one mentor that would really educate you about what it takes. And so I bring all this up because it's not for everybody. And like you say, if you're not willing to lose at all, you really shouldn't get into day trading.
Yeah, I agree with those points because some people like just throw like their life savings in there and then they don't have like it's you have to have basically all feelings off of your money. Like you can't just throw what you have left and expect to like double, triple it without like freaking out about it. It's like, okay, you have your emergency fund set up and everything, you have disposable income. Throw out that disposable income that you don't really need into trading and then trade freely without like a worry in the world if it all goes away or doesn't.
And when one of the things that you brought up that is essential is that emergency fund. I always tell people that they should have between 6 and 8 months worth of savings, which they shouldn't keep in a savings account unless it's giving you enough money, right? So you and I were talking earlier about savings accounts or certificates of deposit that will give you 3%, 4%, 4.5. Some of them will give you 5%. And it's money that is basically guaranteed. There is no risk that you're going to lose your original deposit. And in some of this, the percentage of return can be fluid, where maybe a few months is 5%, and then it goes down to 3.5 based on policy of the US government. But what is your suggestion? How many months? I always say 6 to 8 in the emergency fund. How much do you suggest? And what is it supposed to cover in that emergency fund?
Okay, so it really like how I view it is based on like income because like some people can afford to save a lot of money a month. Some people cannot afford to save a lot of money a month. So if people struggle to save per month, I would aim towards 3 to 6 months. And what you're saving in those 3 to 6 months is you have to calculate your monthly expenses, like your utilities, your rent, what you need to like actually live, not like excess stuff, like things like car notes, internet payments, water payments, all that. Calculate everything and then multiply it by 3 or 6 and see how much you actually need to save up to
Yeah.
then put that into an emergency fund. And my pick right now is a Wealthfront, which offers 4.55% per year. There's other accounts that offer high interest savings I haven't explored yet, which offer 5%. Like I believe the Apple savings account offers 5% or close to 5%. But yeah, definitely mark down your expenses a month, multiply it by the amount. I would say intervals of 3, 3, 6, 9, or 12, whatever you're comfortable saving. If you have excess amount of saving income on a month, and I would aim to 6 to 12 months. It'll be very, very easy if you live below your means and your monthly expenses don't exceed what you make a month. Yeah. Like for example, if you're earning $15,000 a month and your expenses a month are close to 4,000, you can easily build up that emergency fund within 2 months and you're set. But in comparison to someone that makes 4,000 a month and their expenses are 2,500, that'll be a bit harder. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So and then what I tell people is again, find the place where your money is going to be secure, whether it is your credit union. And again, don't put it in the savings. Typically, the money market will make you more money than a regular savings account. And it's important to understand that. But the other thing that you said that is really important is the difference between wants and needs. Needs, as you mentioned, is the rent, the water, the electricity, gas for your vehicle if you have one of those vehicles, all of those pieces. And wants includes that daily Starbucks, eating out every day when you could be cooking and preparing meals at home. Um, whether you have multiple services like Netflix and Hulu and this and that and the other, those are wants, and how quickly that adds up to money that likely you're just wasting. Plus, what I tell people all the time is watching hours and hours of television or online type of services, as opposed to buying a book that is going to be helpful in teaching you about finances, right? It's about investing on yourself, not wasting your life. Now, this brings us to what area of study did you decide to pursue? Because again, this investing, this day trading, it wasn't your future goal. You were working on something else. What was your major in college?
Major in college was computer science because, like, since I was like in late middle school to high school, I've always been fascinated with technology. Even in elementary school, I still always want to mess around with computers and try to like bypass website blockers, etc. And I'm like, it's so interesting how everything works. And then the the era of applications like mobile applications and stuff came on, and I'm like, how the heck do people make these games and all that?
Mhm.
And it really aligned me with something to do in tech. Like in the beginning, I'm like, maybe I want to do cybersecurity, but then I'm like, I think software development is more aligned to what I want to do, like for an excess amount of time. So I did research, and I was like, okay, computer science provides you with some experience with that, and then theoretical concepts of how things work in detail. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like you go to like do computer science, right? It's cool. You get some programming experience and learn the theory behind it, but not all computer science programs offered in different universities actually prepare you for the real world. Like I feel like some have like false expectations. Like for example, based on my experience, they say, "Oh, you got to make sure your code uh isn't full of bugs, doesn't like doesn't run, etc." Because in the real world, it's not going to fly. But
Mhm.
what I've noticed is that in the real world, people have bugs all the time. Code
Yeah.
doesn't work, and things blow up. It's like it's they set a bit of few false expectations, and
Yeah.
I don't think they prepare people to like expand based off like real world companies and stuff you use unless the person is motivated by themselves to pursue something like side projects outside of like school time. Because I feel like the main trend when it comes to computer science is people just code what they're given to them as in like homework and stuff, but they don't really explore outside
Mhm.
domains. Yeah.
So you brought up a lot of different things. Is like in my phone, my apps are being updated every few days. And typically what it says is we found some issues, we fixed some bugs in the app, and it should work better now. So,
Mhm.
right, the false sense that everything that is programmed is going to work perfect every time. And sometimes you try to start an app and it opens up and it crashes, and then 20 minutes later there's an update, you download the update, and now the app works. And I think that you're right in regards to, we also as consumers have been told that the product that you're buying is going to always work out perfect, and then we get frustrated when it doesn't. But again, ultimately humans are putting this together. The other piece here that you mentioned is how the educational system either prepares you for the real world or doesn't prepare you for the real world. And that also goes into something that is important, and that is internships and other opportunities to explore some type of summer program that you can go to where you can learn something more related to the real world than whatever is being provided within the institutions. Did you ever participate in any summer programs that prepare you better, or did you do mostly your own work individually?
So when I was going to my science program at the JC, like I think the end of first year or the middle of second year, I'm like, is programming just what I'm doing in class? Like just this language called C++ and making these like console programs? And then I did research and I'm like, no, there's like web development, mobile application development, like there's different types of development. I'm like, okay, these two kind of pique my interest. So I did a bit of research. I started doing like side projects, like how to work with HTML, JavaScript, create like simple brochure-based websites, learn how CSS works to like style things. Like when you go to a web page and you see like, oh, it has a home page, it has like a nav bar on top with like options and all that, and then how JavaScript comes together to like help you navigate through the website and render things dynamically. And then it came to a point where I'm like, okay, these side projects are cool, but I want to enroll into like a actual like boot camp. So I think end of sophomore year, like I didn't officially like enroll. Like I found the boot camp course for free online. I just went through all those modules, and throughout my winter break, I was just like trapped in my room for like 10 to 16 hours a day, just going through those modules and building out projects and understanding really how all these things work in detail. And also I think that like helped me like stand out a bit in terms of like having things on my resume to put like, oh, I made a weather application that shows a forecast of X amount of days, a to-do app which has like my to-do list, lets me create them, delete them all in real time, also make games. And then I believe what also propelled me into like being more well-rounded and knowledgeable is that after that boot camp, I was like, okay, how do they always have like applications and stuff ready to do? And I'm like, okay, they probably prepare all this content beforehand. Then it got me interested in like, how can I learn user interface and user experience design? And I found out that there's this website called Figma, and I started like learning design and what's like the best design patterns. And I just started creating my own design layouts before working on my own side projects. And it helped me a lot because I'm like, I'm learning how to prototype and design things before I actually build them. Because I used to just build things and be like, oh, I'll just work on the design like on the fly. It's basically like trying to fly a plane while you're building it, which didn't really quite work.
Yeah.
And I think like going through that boot camp, doing my side projects, learning design, it really helped me like be well-rounded in comparison to just coding and working on things when given in school. And especially like I was like at a time I was wondering how people got into those like big companies, those big established companies like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, LinkedIn, etc. And I did a lot of research on like how your resume is supposed to be templated, what it's supposed to have, buzzwords, action words, and then actually studying like data structures and algorithms because you gotta know how those things work when it comes to preparing for interviews by doing interview questions. And I feel what put me a very, very step ahead is that I was learning those concepts before even having that class in my university program. So when I walked into that class, everyone was looking at me like, what are you even talking about? And I'm like, you do this, this, and this, and this, and this based on all this information I grasped over like a summer or something. And I feel like it made that class very more easier than it would have been like going into that like being in a crunched period of time trying to like learn everything because you have a deadline or project due. And like based off those concepts to help me prepare for interviews and get to final rounds in multiple companies as a junior. Yeah.
So like you share a lot of information there. One of the pieces that I think it's important that you share is something that a lot of students actually don't do when they're in high school, middle school is not expected of them. and even in college, often it's not expected of them. I know that I did that when I was in college, and that is in the middle of summer, I would find out what books I was going to need for my psychology classes, for my criminology classes, my history classes, and I would review the books ahead of time so that by the time I walk into the classroom, I knew exactly, or had an idea, I should say, of what was going to be expected in the class. And a lot of students, sometimes you're in the second week of classes, and students are just now getting the books
Yeah.
or asking whether or not the books will be needed. And it's like, we are already like in chapter 3 or chapter 5 of the book, and you're telling me that you haven't bought it. And so I think that was important, that you were always looking ahead and trying to get ahead of the game. Now, one of the things we haven't asked you is at what age did you graduate college with your degree?
So, at age 21, I graduated college with my degree. I officially graduated in May, but my official graduation would have been in January. So that would have put me at 3 years of school, 3 years or 3 years and a half. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting journey, and being like, oh, I didn't graduate college at 22, 23 since I started right out of high school. Yeah.
The only thing that we should acknowledge here is that you didn't have to pay rent and food and all of that stuff while you were in college. Am I correct?
Um, that is sort of true, but not sort of true, because in the beginning, yeah, it was like no rent, etc. But then I was like, okay, I'm collecting this financial aid money from university and stuff. But at the same time, it's like I want to make my own money too. And then after what job did I get after when I was in junior college and stuff? So I did trading, I did crypto investing. Mainly I used like my financial aid money to do all that stuff. I was able to get a car based off my financial aid money because I needed transportation. Um, I think I went through a case of like, yeah, being employed in school, but it was like in the beginning, it was just my own employment. Like I was offering services like graphic design,
Mhm.
making websites, etc., making side money off that, but it wasn't like, stable every month. Um, and then I got a job. I can't remember if it was end of sophomore or beginning of junior year, but it was as a salesperson selling Verizon products. And I was working that part-time from Friday to Sunday. Um, and it really helped in a lot of aspects, as in like social skills, patience, and actually like selling people on things. And I think it aligned with what I used to do when I used to make side money by myself.
Mhm.
And after that, yeah, I did have to pay rent because like money was coming in, and my parents were like, "Oh, okay, money's coming in. Could you like allocate X amount to rent and stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." But yeah, there was a point where I was like, yeah, working as a salesperson. I think that only lasted for like a year and a half, and then I pivoted towards like more tech stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. Um, and that brings us to today. What are you doing with your life? You have a bachelor's degree in computer science. What do you do now? Have you been able to find a job?
Yeah, so end of junior year, I had an internship at LinkedIn after many rounds of other companies. During my junior year, I interviewed with Microsoft, Capital One, Dropbox, what else? Seagate, etc. Made it to final rounds, but it was either like, oh, you get rejected or you get ghosted for some reason.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, I was interviewing for the LinkedIn internship because I was just chilling one day. I was going through my interviews, like seeing, oh, I have these things scheduled, etc. Then a recruiter slid in my DMs and was like, oh, I looked at your background, experience, etc., and you seem like a good fit for this role. And I'm like, that's interesting. And LinkedIn recruiting for LinkedIn. And then I applied, all that stuff, got an email for the first steps, which was an online assessment, which was like coding interview questions that you would do based on a timer. by yourself. And I'm like, okay, I studied these concepts a good amount. I should be able to do these things. And yeah, I got a pretty like good score. I passed all their test cases to ensure that all the code didn't miss anything. And then after that, I notified the recruiter and I'm like, okay, I think I'm done with this. And then she's like, sure, I'm gonna send you information for the next steps. We had a phone call discussing the role, et cetera, et cetera. And then she sent an email providing a final round information, which was a behavioral interview, which was seeing if you're a good culture fit and like what you've done, et cetera. And then the other one was a final round technical coding assessment, which was coding in HTML, JavaScript, and CSS to like develop something that they would tell you on the spot. And also like knowing like since at the time I did full stack, but that role specifically front end engineering, like the front of the application, like the user interface, etc. I have to know how all these like methodologies and concepts work together. Like, and I did like a lot of front end question prep, and it kind of helped me like on that. I kind of over prepared for that because I thought I was like not doing enough preparing. Um, and then the final round day came. I did those. It seemed very interesting because when I was comparing like the interviewers that were giving me those rounds in comparison to the other companies, they seemed like more lively and fun. But I think it was because I always came in there like just like bouncing off walls with some like chaotic energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the behavioral one went well. And then the second one, it was like the second one felt like you were just chilling with the homies. Like it was like two interviews and we were just like talking and doing the final round stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I think I met like all their criteria and stuff. And he was like, okay, looks good to me. And then it was like, we'll be in touch and stuff. And I'm like, there ain't no way I didn't get that at all. And um I was doing my Capital One interview like a while then after that. And I was like, I'm basically on the final round, final step. Then I received a phone call and it said it was like from San Francisco or Sunnyvale. And I'm like, it has to be LinkedIn. And then once they told me, oh, you got the offer for this role and stuff for the summer for like 4 weeks and stuff. Not 4 weeks, 4 months. I was like, okay, I could drop this other interview. So I dropped this other Capital One final interview, emailed the recruiter, was like, I decided to pursue other opportunities that came up. Thank you for your time. And then I just stopped right there. And I'm like, I really dropped this other interview because I just got a very good offer at a very
Mhm.
established company. Yeah.
Good. And again, it's important for people who are learning from your experience. It's important to understand that we should always be doing internships when we're in college because it just opens the opportunities. What we know is a lot of people graduate college, and the first thing that they want in your application, in your CV, in your resume, whatever people want to call it, it's like, how many years of work experience do you have? Well, if you've only been focusing on the schoolwork
Yeah.
and in the summer you're just working or relaxing or whatever, or traveling maybe, you're not going to have anything. But if you walk in, you said, I did an internship here one summer and another internship here another summer, and people can recognize that. And again, this is not just in the computer science majors, but in every area of study, then it makes it easier. So you participated in that, and now you have a bachelor's degree in computer science. You enjoy your career, and you're making okay money. You don't have to tell us how much money you make, but you make enough money and you enjoy your career, right?
Yeah. So like my viewpoint on like degrees, careers, etc. It's like in tech, you can break into tech by not doing a degree, right? But you'll probably start off at very like bad tier companies, which probably don't pay you market value. And then you have to work up your way, which will take a bit longer than someone that has a degree to break into big companies. So I suggest if your goal is to break into established companies like like in a short amount of time, go through a degree, um, get internships that will convert you to full time later on. And yeah, I think that's like the easiest way to get into those big companies in comparison to just trying to interview for full time, because then it's actually a bit more preparing and a bit trickier.
Mhm.
Um, I would suggest yeah, people to not wait till last minute to look for jobs, because I did have some of my graduating class neglect internships and such. When I would bring it up, they would say they would get on it and stuff, but they never really got on it. And now with the job market the way it is, layoffs, etc., they're kind of struggling to land something like full-time wise. And I I do recommend people to get as much internship experience, no matter if you're a freshman, sophomore, or junior. Definitely build side projects to like fluff up your resume if you don't have actual experience. And like 2 points I would want to put out for your resume is not to put your graduation date on there, because companies, if they see that you're a freshman, they're most likely to auto reject you. But if you don't have your graduation year or anything, and just say you go to this school doing this and this, they'll, I think they'll like oversee that and just be like, okay, we can interview this person. Yeah.
Definitely. And so that brings me to the last part of this conversation for today. Um, and that has to do with, what do you do when you're actually making okay money? Do you start traveling and buying cars and buying this and buying that? Or do you then have to learn to manage, again, wants versus needs, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you are not in debt all the time? In the United States, the average person with credit card debt is now at about $12,500, and there is over $1 trillion worth of debt where people are making monthly payments, but it will take them basically a lifetime to pay it back. What are your recommendations for those individuals who are getting, just got, or will soon get a job, a career that will pay them enough to survive, and there will be extra money there?
Well, I think it's a case by case, by person, personality, and who they surround themselves with. Because, for example, someone that is not good with money management, even at a young age, they can somehow find themselves into big money and still have those bad habits. So I think it's either they adapt to managing their money correctly, or they don't adapt. Like, for example, I've been always good with the money management, saying that, okay, I really want these things, but I don't really need them. And I used to always think, like back in the day, like early high school and stuff, it's like, oh, if you're flashy and stuff, it's like got it going on and such. But then I heard that that's not really the case with those people in high school that were flashy and all that. They were actually like, their parents were in debt or something. And I'm like, it's not really sunshine and rainbows,
Mhm.
actually. And like, I always been kind of conservative with money, like, managing good, making sure credit's good, never miss like any payments or anything. But another thing that I would say is, like, let's say you break into a lucrative career, for example, tech, you start making 200, $300,000 right out of college. Um, Surround yourself with people that help you see a new perspective. Like, for example, I have a couple friends who either have really big real estate portfolios, or their parents run $20 million companies or higher. And for example, my real estate friend that I've been friends with for like 7 years, um, he manages his father's like multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. And I don't really see him being flashy or anything. Like, yeah, he drives a Tesla, that's about it, but he doesn't like, pop bottles every weekend,
Yeah.
spend on Lamborghinis and stuff. He's like, you know, you have it, but it's not really required to like show it. Like, rather than spending your money on depreciating liabilities and stuff like cars and houses with your like hard-earned income that you actually work for, make sure that you have an asset for every liability. Like, for example, if you want a Audi or Mercedes, make sure you have an asset that takes care of those monthly payments so you can afford the car even if you're out of a job. and also make sure that you're able to cover your living expenses with assets. So if you ever decide like you want to quit or you're laid off or something, you have assets covering your living and your lifestyle doesn't get sacrificed. And I think those types of friends really keep me in check because I'm like, damn, I can really buy a like high-end Audi sports car right now. But I'm like, I need an asset first. Like I can afford it, but I'd rather have the asset to pay for it. And
Yeah.
that's what keeps me in check. It's like you gotta know that it's cool spending your hard-earned income, but if you're working for money, like in anything, once you stop working, that money stops flowing.
Yeah.
Unless you're like there's different scenarios. For example, in tech right now where I am, there's unlimited PTO, so you could probably take like a month off by asking, and like you still get paid. But if you ever actually do get fired or laid off, and that's your only source of income, and you have
Mhm.
all these houses, cars, etc., and you're swimming in monthly payments, once you're out and you don't have any nest eggs or repercussions, then your money's also out. So it's good to surround yourself with good people and have an asset for every liability, and like make sure you don't ball out like and exceed or get into lifestyle creep right away until you are only spending like 20, like you have to make sure your monthly expenses are not exceeding like 50%, like keep them below like 30-40%, so you have excess money to make more money with. Like you just can't ball out and blow money if you don't really like have it that way. Because yeah, some people with credit card that like you mentioned, they have like on average 12,500. Like right now, I have the power to spend an insane amount on because I have an Amex Gold that doesn't have a limit at all. I could spend an insane amount on that, but it's not very financially responsible to do that. It's like it takes a certain characteristic or a certain amount of people you hang out with to make you realize that's not all about making bad money decisions. And if you have the money, not to just blow it all. Yeah.
There is a very wealthy individual who, in a workshop, said once before, he says, I have billions of dollars. He says, I started a bank with a couple of friends, then we sold it. I started this with a few friends. We contributed millions, each of us. Once it became a big business, we sold it and we cashed in all of those monies, he says. But what people, especially poor and middle class individuals, don't understand, he said, is for us, being wealthy means that we are not wasting our money. He says, I go to the same store as everybody else and I buy, 3 pairs of pants, 5 pairs of pants, and that's it. Just because I can afford 1,000 pairs of pants, I don't need it. So why would I buy it? Right? And he says that, again, it's about learning to manage your money so that you never risk the fact of becoming poor. And that also brings us to diversified investments, right? So you again invested in the market, you did day trading. Are you still doing day trading now, or how are you diversifying your investments?
So I stopped doing day trading. Mainly my goals for diversification and different income streams at the moment are putting money into my 401k every month. So that's like viewed as a index fund that goes up depending on the market appreciation a year. My company matches 100% of it up to the max, which in a sense, if you were to do 100% contribution to it, you would get an extra $10,000 for free. So that's something I am doing at the moment. And on top of that, I am, building out emergency funds, putting them in high interest savings. When I get company stock, I make sure not to have all my eggs in one basket, because if you just have your stock on hold and don't really liquidify it, you're just having your income fluctuating up and down, and it's good to take that money out and use it into other vehicles such as real estate. So with real estate, my goal with that is going the lower barrier to entry in Section 8 and scooping up as many properties as I can. With that, my goal for real estate in regards to Section 8 is to currently offset my monthly expenses. So my assets are just paying for my monthly expenses, and I pocket 100% of my tech income a year. And while pocketing 100%, it'll either help me like go into other ventures, keep picking up properties, or like investing into my family. Like, for example, they have a house in Mexico. Um, it's not in the best condition, but they make it work. And my viewpoint was, okay, if I'm making X amount a year, having $200,000 in disposable income every year, I could like invest $200,000 and rebuild that whole house in Mexico and provide them a more well-built modern home that they can live in without any issues. And that, yeah, so those are one of my motivations for gaining high income, is helping other people in my family. And on top of 401ks, emergency funds, real estate investments, also it's good to build a company or business if you can balance it on top of your job. For example, right now I'm working to build a digital solutions company with 3 other founders. We're looking to make our business around productized subscriptions, as in offering clients a certain amount based on the package they choose a month, based on the services that they need, to then keep money flowing in and not worrying about, oh, where are we going to source our clients for this month? Are we going to have enough work? It's just constant revenue coming in. It's like a software as a subscription based company. And that will help me diversify my income and also expand it, because with a job, yeah, you do have promotions, etc., based on performance reviews, but it may not be as fast as if you had a scalable company on the side, which could give you raises by the clients you get every month. Yeah, which would help you boost your monthly income and yearly income substantial.
Plus, a lot of the company expenses become possibly tax deductible at the end of the year, and therefore you pay less in taxes, and it just keeps going on and on. And so this is for students who may, listen to this conversation, college students specifically who may listen to this conversation, or even high school students. We're talking about what would be called the side hustle, right? You have your job, and then you have some other project you're working on. And sometimes that begins with, again, reading a book that is going to teach you skills, or like you said, watching this whole series of videos that taught you about a certain piece of programming. It could be mowing lawns, it could be recycling for money, it could be, if you're really good with pictures or video, selling those services, house sitting, pet sitting, all of those things. As long as you don't see that as income that I'm gonna go waste on something else, this is just a side hustle. That money again goes into investments of other kinds. And so it's really interesting to see your progression and to have this conversation about your progression from, again, you were born here, you went to school locally in Sonoma County, but now you're working in a tech company. You're making okay money. You're about to be 22, I think. And again, this is how it should be. But the beautiful piece is you're not saying, okay, I got my college degree, I got this career, I'm done. You're still looking at, I'm investing here, I'm diversifying here, here, because the last question I have for you is, when do you retire? Right? Because a lot of people are always thinking, well, I want to retire at 65, or if I could, maybe 60. and this is a compounded question, but one, when are you thinking of retiring, or is that even on your mind?
Well, before I get to the retirement question, I would like to add one thing that would help the viewers. Like if you're ever looking into investing into real estate and you have a W-2 income job, I would definitely recommend getting like normal like single family homes, multi-unit properties under your personal name because it'll also help you write off the depreciation value of those properties to save more taxes on W-2 income.
Mhm.
And back to the question of retirement, I don't really have a retirement age. Since what I'm doing is not like physically demanding, I feel like I could do it for a long time. I mean, I would like to get to a point where I could choose to retire or not to, but as long as I could keep, finding new ways to make money and just expanding and growing my like net worth and income, I'm okay doing that. Yeah. Like I don't really have a set age. Like I feel like a thing about me is that if I don't have certain milestones or goals to like hit, like let's say if I just was like, oh, I got a degree and got a job, that's it. I would find life very boring. Like I wouldn't have things to do. So
Mhm.
like I feel like if I retire, I could travel and stuff. Yeah, have more free time. But at some point, I would probably get bored. Like I just
Yeah.
want to keep doing things until life takes me out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, that's the difference. And I appreciate that this gives us the opportunity to clarify. There is something called a job and there is something called a career. And I explain this to families on a regular basis. A job is where you have to show up, and it may not be your choice what work you're doing. It's just what is necessary for you to pay for your rent, your food, whatever it is. A career is something that you choose to do, where every morning you wake up, you open your eyes and you say, wow, I'm lucky to have this opportunity to do this. It's fun. In your situation is computer science and programming, and now you're thinking about your side business and you're looking at real estate and right. It's just exciting. Why would I feel bad about life when there's so many opportunities, right? And so it's beautiful, and we invite again the community to really start noticing that in life you have options. You can have a job and possibly like it, but most likely hate it because you resign yourself that that's all you're going to do. Or you could have a career like you do, where again, from one day to the next, you, because it's super important to understand, to get a computer science major is not like a psychology major or a sociology major. You had to do a lot of math. And I remember that when you were starting at the JC, you would text me and you say, oh, I decided to take this many units this semester. Or this class wasn't as difficult as I thought. I think next semester I'm going to do another class. And it's like, this is even in college, this is what you like doing, the math, the whatever other classes you had to take, which somebody like me, it doesn't work for me. But again, so I don't want to minimize how challenging it can be to get a degree in computer science. But I'm glad that you made it. I'm glad that you are where you are. And again, I look forward to checking in with you over time and just have updates as to what are you doing now. Because again, it seems like you are now officially starting as an adult in the career of your choice. And again, you have a lot of ideas. So I want to thank you for taking the time and definitely appreciate our healthy relationship that we've had. And again, I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you, Brandon.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on the show.
Definitely. Take care.
Yep.